Welcome to Money Market, a Bank of Tampa podcast. We highlight the businesses, business expert advice, the local economy, and points of interest in the Tampa Bay market. Follow us on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, or wherever you find your favorite podcast. And please make sure to share this episode with a friend or colleague. I'm your host, Owen LaFave, the Pinellas County Market President for the Bank of Tampa, Tampa Bay's oldest and largest community bank. Today's guest has held key positions at the Metropolitan Opera, Guggenheim Museum, and the New York Botanical Gardens. And we're anxious to find out if she prefers the Little Shop of Horrors over the Happening. And we're excited to be joined today by the CEO of the Marie Selby Botanical Gardens in Sarasota, Jennifer Rominiecki. Welcome to Money Market.
Thanks for having me. It's great to be here.
So is it Little Shop of Horrors or the Happening?
So it is happening. So, I'll always love New York. It's where I'm from, but I love Sarasota and the Tampa Bay region. It's a delight to be here. The quality of life.
How did we get you here?
Well, that's a great question. So, I had no intention of relocating to this area. Born and bred New Yorker. My husband's from Brooklyn, and so he doesn't think I'm really from New York.
Of course.
So anyway, I tell everyone I started out in visual art at the Guggenheim, moved to performing art at the Metropolitan Opera, and ended up in living art at the New York Botanical Garden. I was there for 15 years, just plugging away, and a recruiter approached me about this opportunity to be the president and CEO of Selby Gardens. And I'd heard of Selby because it has international renown as having the world's best scientifically documented collection of orchids, but I'd never been. And I just thought, well, I'll take the interview. Why not? And I did. And came to Sarasota, touched down at Selby Gardens, and just saw the tremendous potential. And so my husband and I packed up with our two young sons.
Wow.
Never looked back. That was more than 9 years ago. This February, it'll be 10 years.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So, well, we're happy to have you. I mean,
thank you.
Yes, the job that you do down there, and I can't wait to talk all about it. But maybe for people that don't know, can you tell the story of the Marie Selby Gardens?
Absolutely. So Marie Selby Botanical Gardens really was founded in the early 70s. And in 1971, it was discovered when Marie Selby passed away, her intention to leave her property as a botanical garden for the community. And Marie and Bill Selby, their wealth came from oil.
Okay.
And they were a very modest couple who philanthropically did so much in the Sarasota region to make an impact. And so
because the house is not very big, right?
No. So basically, they decided to purchase some land in Sarasota, right on the bay, to have a little winter retreat.
Okay.
And they loved it so much. So they built this modest home. Loved it so much they decided to move down full time, and they never expanded the home. So the home is very modest.
Fascinating. Well, that makes sense now.
Yeah,
right? Yeah.
And it has a local historic designation, and so it's part of the museum experience on the campus. And then over the 50 years, so we've been open for 50 years.
Congratulations! It's a big milestone.
Thank you. Yes. So during that time, the Board of Trustees acquired all of the adjacent parcels of land to make up the current 15-acre downtown Sarasota campus. And then in 2020, we adopted a second campus 10 miles south of the downtown called our historic Spanish Point campus. So we now have
Osprey?
Yes,
is that
in Osprey,
okay.
Exactly. Okay. So we now have 45 acres of bayfront sanctuaries.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now, did the original collection come from Marie Selby? I mean, did she have a pretty substantial garden to start with?
So she had a substantial garden, and there are historic garden elements that are still there, such as our iconic banyan grove, which was planted, under her while she was living on the property.
They're amazing. They're so cool.
Yes, they're incredible. And there's a stand of bamboo that is original, lots of original plantings, but the research focus on epiphytes or air plants was determined by her executors who founded the institution, which opened to the public in 1975. And basically, her executors all consulted with other botanical gardens, including the New York Botanical Garden, which I find ironic, to determine what was the gap in the botanical garden world that needed to be filled. So it was determined that Selby Garden should become the only botanical garden in the world to focus on the study of air plants or epiphytes that grow in the tree canopy instead of the soil, like orchids and bromeliads. So we set out with this focus, and during Selby Garden's 50-year history, our scientists have discovered or described more than 2,000 species for science.
Kidding. Wow.
Yes.
I unfortunately discovered that those are still possible to kill, so I did. Don't hold it against me, Jennifer. I'm sorry.
You don't have a green thumb, Owen?
How
could you run a bank without a green thumb?
Well, my green is a little different.
Touche.
My green doesn't die.
Touche.
But no, I mean, I don't have a brown thumb. It's just not quite a green thumb. There's somewhere in between. So.
Well, with orchids, I always tell everyone, because where we live, this region is perfect for orchids. So if you're having trouble with yours, I always tell everyone just leave it outside and forget about it.
Oh, no kidding. Okay.
Yes, because sometimes I think people tend to overcare for them, overwater. And also, if it's in a spot in your home that it's not happy in, like in front of an air conditioning vent or something, that it tends to affect how they do. So if you're having trouble, I say put it outside, especially in the Tampa Bay region.
And just forget it.
And forget it.
There's I'm going off tangent a little bit, but I don't know the technical name, but mother-in-law's breath?
Yeah. Oh, yes. Oh, mother-in-law's tongue? The Sansevieria?
Yes. Okay, yes. Had one of those that's inherited when I purchased a property.
Yeah.
And so this was in Tampa proper, and there was an alleyway, and I threw it out in the back in the alleyway on its side.
Yeah.
And it probably lived a good 2 years until I thought, maybe I should care for this plant and repotted it. And yes.
Well, Mother Nature is very resilient, so you have to let her do her thing.
Well, and they say, I guess, the mother-in-law's tongue, won't die.
Yes, exactly.
Like your mother-in-law's tongue.
Yes, they live on.
So what else besides the air plants or the epiphytes? Epiphytes.
Yes.
I may get that right eventually. And orchids.
Yes.
So what else can people experience at the Botanical Gardens?
Yes. So both of our campuses are bayfront. So it's a wonderful way to enjoy the bay. And also, both campuses do focus on native Florida plants as well. So what we've done is really focused on becoming the living museum, for which we have a trademark. And it's the idea that museums create changing experiences, exhibitions, programs to garner repeat visitation.
Sure.
Always give you a reason to come back. I never want to hear you say, I've been to Selby, as if you don't have a reason to come back.
Right.
Exactly. So both campuses always have changing exhibits and programs. And then, of course, the natural feel of a garden is that it's always changing. It's always growing. Different things are coming into flower. So there's always something new to see and do, for sure.
So what else? So there's the orchid. There you have a child section, right? The children's rainforest, if I'm remembering correctly.
That's right. We have the Children's Rainforest Garden, which is amazing. So it's an interactive experience. It's an elevated rainforest garden so that families can get up in the tree canopy and really explore. And so it's really fun. And it's
waterfalls, right?
Waterfalls. Yeah. And, you can really just get up in the canopy and run around. And what's nice is it kind of has a one-way flow. So with the younger kids, you can let them run and they'll come out the other side.
Comforting to parents. I know.
Exactly.
I remember those days.
Yeah.
So in terms of, I guess with that specifically, do you bring schools in from an education process?
We do.
Okay, how does that?
Yes.
What does that look like?
So we educate more than 10,000 school children and families annually.
Wow.
And so what we're really doing is supplementing the plant science learning experience that you would find in the classroom. So it's informal plant science learning. And so we have guided school groups, tons of kids and families. And then we also have programs to specifically reach underserved families in our region, which is so important. It's so important that these families get to connect with nature. You know, it's surprising how many times we come across families that are experiencing the Bay for the first time.
Sure.
You know, so it's really about providing access and also learning for children of all ages.
Now, do you do that work with employees and volunteers?
We do.
Okay.
Exactly. So we have about 80 employees, but 800 volunteers.
Okay. Wow. Yes.
So
it's a lot to manage.
It is. It's a lot to manage. And at the same time, there are so many talented people in the Tampa Bay region and, that really want to give their time. And so we put them right to work.
So you all are recognized as a leader in the plant conservation and education space. And we talked a little bit about education. But how do you contribute to global conservation efforts?
Yes. Oh, that's a great question. So Selby Gardens is a Smithsonian affiliate. And I mentioned earlier our niche focus on air plants or epiphytes. And so the trick about biodiversity research worldwide is that you don't want to duplicate your efforts. You know, there's a finite amount of work, to do. And you want to kind of link arms and do it together. Mm-hmm. So we collaborate internationally with institutions around the world on biodiversity research. And the work that our team does is basic taxonomic research. And so what that does is it informs worldwide conservation, because if you don't know what the world has, you can't conserve it. So our team's niche is this focus on air plants, and we do field expeditions around the world in order to study the plants, where they occur, and how they're being affected by changes in climate and what's happening. And so that work can really inform conservation.
Okay.
So that's kind of gives you a little snapshot. But as far as biodiversity conservation, we all have to work together. Otherwise, we'll duplicate our efforts and we won't be efficient in the work that we do.
Well, and then I imagine there's limited resources too, right? So make sure there's you're not duplicating those efforts, so it can be focused and more broad.
That's right. And our field work, we've concentrated for the most part in South America because there's the largest concentration of air plants or epiphytes in that region. So we can get the most bang for the buck by going to South America, but we do travel all over the world. Yeah.
So I can imagine just running an organization of the size that you have and facility, for I guess lack of a better term, or just the gardens, comes with its own set of conservation challenge, because I'm not sure about like water and electricity usage, but like how do you view that, and what do you do to be efficient there?
So that's a great question. So we just opened in January the first phase of our master plan at the downtown Sarasota campus. And basically, we wanted to tackle a number of issues, such as our research collections were housed on the ground in the flood zone in aging infrastructure. We also needed more visitor amenities, parking, orientation, dining, all of those things. But we thought, well, we have a chance to do this in the most cutting-edge, greenest way. And so basically, all of the buildings that we recently opened and structures are together make up the world's first net positive energy botanical garden complex in the world, generating more energy than we consume. So we are completely powered by the sun now, and it's really exciting.
Yes. Yeah. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
So how do you also deal with being on the Bay? I mean, you'd mentioned flood.
Yep.
So that's the first thing that comes to mind is like, hurricanes, tropical storms do pass through here, and flooding occurs.
Yep.
I guess potentially putting all the plants at risk.
So basically, coastal resilience was really the core of this master site plan. So all of the structures we've built raise the collections up out of the flood zone and are built with the utmost resiliency. And in addition to having more than 56,000 square feet of solar panels as part of the project, under the project, we have a tremendous stormwater management vault that is about the size of a football field.
Wow.
Go Bucks. And basically, all the rainwater that touches the surface area of the new project is collected in this vault, filtrated, and returned to the bay.
That's incredible.
And so it really is an international model for sustainability, what we've built, because it's kind of how all future projects should be built,
sure.
To the utmost of sustainability. And we felt, well, we're in the Sunshine State. Shouldn't we be a model for solar energy? And so that really is what we've become. And as a result of this, just last month, we were named to Time Magazine's top 100 greatest places in the world. Now, I knew that, but I'm glad that it's now been recognized.
That's an amazing recognition. So when you receive something like that, what do you do to promote it?
So,
besides come on the Money Market podcast.
Yes. So, it was thrilling for us to get this recognition because, most people might think, they must have paid for that or pitched it. It's like, no, actually. So it was all done by an editorial board. And I really think that recognition is about the cutting edge sustainability of our project. The fact that it's the first net positive energy botanical garden complex, and also the restaurant on site is the first net positive energy restaurant in the world, generating more energy than consumed. And so it's...
Now, is it a new restaurant?
Yes.
Okay, it is. Okay, yes. Because I do remember the restaurant used to be in the house, right?
So we still have that. That's our informal cafe.
Okay.
So you can still grab and go and come to the Selby House, but we opened a destination restaurant called the Green Orchid.
Okay.
And the food is by Michael's on East, a very iconic Sarasota restaurateur. But on the roof of the restaurant is an edible garden. And so all the produce produced right on site goes into the restaurant. And that edible garden is actually tended and designed by Operation EcoVets, a wonderful group of local veterans suffering from PTSD and other disabilities that practice horticultural therapy. So they are tending that edible garden. All the produce goes into the restaurant, so you truly have a garden-to-plate dining experience.
So I will make sure to grab my wife, and we'll
you
make it a
Jessica,
destination. Yes.
Come over for lunch.
We definitely will.
Great.
So you talked about the Living Museum a little bit. Can you elaborate on that some more?
Sure. So basically, when I arrived in 2015, I noticed that, people would come and say, I've been to Selby Gardens and they love it, but as if they didn't have a reason to come back. Yeah. And so the Living Museum operating model is about having changing exhibits, programs, and events to garner repeat visitation and broaden our audiences. And so since instituting the Living Museum model, we've more than doubled our visitation to more than 300,000 annual visitors. We've more than doubled our membership to more than 23,000 member households. And so we're always giving you a reason to come back. And so upcoming, we have some really awesome exhibits coming up that you have to see. So right now on view...
Please let us know.
Yes. On view at the downtown campus is an exhibit of the Florida Highwaymen, this iconic group of African-American painters from the 1950s who couldn't show their paintings in traditional settings like galleries, museums because of segregation. And meanwhile, they captured stunning Florida landscapes and, at a time really before development. So we have about 20 paintings on view at our downtown Sarasota campus right now.
Okay.
And at the historic Spanish Point campus, we have photographs by iconic Florida photographer Clyde Butcher, blown up in large scale on aluminum and sighted outdoors in the landscape.
Oh, very cool.
So those two shows are on view right now, but then coming up, we have some other exciting shows. So
how long will those be in place?
Those will be up. Clyde Butcher is just up through August 31st.
No. So as we're filming this, it's tomorrow. So
okay.
Sorry, everybody.
Sorry if you're missing it. The Highwaymen is on until September 15th.
Okay.
And then coming up in October, we will be opening our annual orchid show. And the theme this year is purple.
Okay.
So everything purple will be on view. Purple living orchids, purple prints of orchids from our rare books collection, purple photographs of living collections orchids. So it'll be an immersion in purple in October running through Thanksgiving weekend.
So are you only wearing purple for 6 weeks?
I think so. I just did a little bit of shopping. So
you have to go with the theme.
Yes,
that's right, Jennifer.
It'll be really immersive. I can tell you that. Break out your purple. And then at the historic Spanish Point campus, we have a really amazing artist in residence, rock icon Patti Smith. And we will be doing an exhibit of her photography at the Spanish Point campus, again, blown up on aluminum and sighted in the landscape. And that opens in early November and will run through next August.
Okay.
And, it's a great combination of art, plants, flowers, all in the natural setting. And, we've been weaving these experiences together to create one-of-a-kind experiences.
Immersive, like you said.
Immersive.
Now, how would you describe her style of photography?
So Patti Smith's style is, she is, resoundingly an iconic artist, known for her music, her poetry, her writing, and also her visual arts. And so basically in 2018, she started an Instagram account and started posting photographs, and she produced a book called A Book of Days that was recently published. And so the selection of works that'll be on view is from her recently published book.
Okay.
And then she will be performing at the historic Spanish Point campus on November 14th.
Okay, that's cool.
So stay tuned for tickets to go on sale at selby.org. Yeah, for that.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
So is the book available for sale there as well?
It will be available for sale as well, on site, but you can get it online now. And it's called A Book of Days. And it's a really wonderful kind of photo documentary style of her own. It's just her personal life. It's her story of being on the road and traveling around the world, yet nature punctuates almost everything she does.
That's incredible. I look forward to seeing that.
Yeah.
This is probably going to sound like an odd question, but it is sincere.
Okay,
So
good.
given all the time you have spent with plants,
Yes.
do you think they have a consciousness? Because I hear, and the reason I'm asking is I've been fascinated recently hearing stories within the last, 5 years that plants can hear water.
Yes.
That they actually move and can communicate through like electrical impulses or sound vibrations with other plants to let them know like predators are in the area. When I hear things like that,
I couldn't agree more. So first of all, if you talk to your plants, they listen.
you hear or music, right? Yeah.
Yes. If you play music, they enjoy it. But I think one of the best examples is, how plants attract their pollinators. Mm-hmm. So that is a deliberite action on a plant's part, to attract their pollinators. One of my favorite examples is called the night blooming cereus, or the queen of the night.
Okay.
And you may have seen us promote this. We have an amazing specimen of this, a cactus flowering vine.
Okay.
So basically it flowers one night every year, and that's it. It literally flowers for 12 hours, and then it closes and doesn't flower again for an entire year.
Wow.
And basically, these magnificent, gigantic white flowers explode this one night, and it's about attracting its pollinators.
Okay.
It's pollinated by a bat. And so it woos its pollinators that one evening, and then that's it. And it doesn't look like much the rest of the year. It's just a green cactus vine. But let me tell you, that one night of the year, it is magnificent. And our botanists can predict its flowering about 12 hours in advance. And what we do is put out a big message, and we open up to the public for free to let everyone see the flowering.
Okay.
So if you go to our YouTube channel, you can see a video of this past year's flowering.
Is there like a time lapse to see it open up?
Exactly.
I'm definitely going to check that out.
Yeah.
It's amazing the bats know that, like, hey, it's happening.
Yeah. Well, between the scent and the flower itself, it's about attracting what it needs to survive. So, I mean, plants really do, they're alive. And I always tell everyone, no plants, no animals.
Yeah, no, that's right. So speaking of pollinators, do you do any work in space with bees? Because I do know, I mean, that is, we're hearing issues with our bee population, which of course, I mean, we lose our bees, we're losing our food source.
Yes, absolutely. So, we do have bees on the properties, both campuses, and we do focus on pollinator gardens, which are so important for the bee community. Mm-hmm. So at the downtown campus, we have a butterfly garden, and, as well as a pollinator garden. And at the historic Spanish Point campus, we even have an immersive butterfly tent, where you can go inside and really, let the butterflies land on you, and it's a really fun experience. And so the pollinator gardens also, of course, attract bees and other pollinators. And it's important that we cultivate that. Bees have been having a real hard time these days, and it's an important aspect of the life cycle that we all need to continue to cultivate.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Do you have a favorite exhibit or plant?
Well, that's like picking a favorite child.
You can do it. I have a favorite. I'll never tell them which one.
I mean, so I'd have to say I have two favorites right now, if you were to ask me. So I love Vanda orchids, and it's probably because they're draped all over our brand new Welcome Center right now. And I love them because they really illustrate the fact that they're air plants, because you visibly see the roots dangling and not being in the soil. And, it makes you question, well, how do they get their nutrients? They're just hanging up there.
But from the air, right?
From the air, exactly, because they're air plants. So I think Vanda orchids are my favorite right now, as well as that Queen of the Night, the night blooming cereus, because that's just such a magnificent happening. But it's only once a year. Did that just happen? Is it getting ready to happen? It happened this past June.
Oh, okay.
So
wait a year.
Yes, but the Vanda orchids are on view now and will be on view all year long in our Welcome Center. And so basically it's a great way for us to showcase air plants because they dangle in our brand new Welcome Center.
What about just some trends and maybe architectural? Because I feel like, in the 80s, every office building had a big atrium. And then we've kind of moved away from that, in the 90s and 2000s and today. And maybe it's because of the internet and the move towards people wanting to have that, that lived experience and having a unique experience and a reason to go.
Yes.
That plant rooms involving plants and architecture, I mean, living walls, I mean, that all seems to be a current trend. Is that something I'm imagining, or are you seeing that?
You are right on. And, I think with regard to the pandemic made everyone realize how important nature is.
Yes.
Absolutely. Green space. And so there has been this trend not only of, with emphasis on green space, but also the fact that you can use walls to grow plants.
Yeah.
And so living walls are really, at the forefront right now. And I'm thrilled to say that with Selby Gardens' new project at the downtown campus, we viewed every surface as a possible place for plants. And so you will see living walls throughout the project. There's just that is what everyone wants now is green space. And if you can't have fully green space, why not use the walls, and especially in cities?
Well, if anybody's going to do it, I would imagine that you all would do it. So
absolutely. And, the tenets of our project were really mirrored on what's called biomimicry or biophilic design. And it's the idea of mirroring nature. So that really plays in with living walls and mirroring the tree canopy. And so that was really among the core principles of the design of our project.
So Jennifer, you mentioned 800 volunteers.
Yes.
So horticulturalists, is it just people that are walking people through the property? Are there people actually working on the plants? I mean, is there an opportunity for people with a background of that to participate at the gardens?
For sure. So really, we have wide-ranging departments throughout both campuses. But with regard to plants, it's important that we have, professional team members as well as volunteers. And so with botany and horticulture, we have very specialized areas. And so botanists are really scientists that are exploring, collecting, and researching plants. And that complements the work of our horticulturists who really cultivate, design, and grow plants. So both of those specialties are highly focused on at Selby Gardens. And, I think we're really hoping to attract the next generation of students and young people that want to immerse in these fields and carry the torch for future generations, because these are very specialized fields.
So do you have a direct relationship with the universities in the area then that are focusing on that?
We do, and we cultivate interns as well as, school volunteers, but it's important. We want to cultivate that interest because it's very, very specialized.
So looking ahead, where are the opportunities for the Selby Gardens to grow, partnerships in the community? I mean, where do you see the opportunities?
Well, that's a great question. So we love collaborating with everyone, whether it's other research institutions or performing arts groups. We have lots of performing arts in the garden, which I think, makes for great synergies.
Absolutely.
Just with cultural institutions generally. As far as growth, we're focused now on the second phase of the master site plan, which is for the downtown campus.
Okay.
So now that we set a new standard with the first phase, we have to keep it going.
You set a high bar. That's
yes.
Right.
And so the second phase will focus on net positive, hurricane resilient glass house structures for our living collections.
Okay.
We have more than 20,000 living plants in our research collections. And so we now need to tackle the facilities for that undertaking. The second phase will also focus on an indoor-outdoor learning pavilion for all of our education programs for children and adults. And so that's kind of our next trajectory with the growth of our site.
So does the technology already exist for the greenhouse?
No, it doesn't.
Oh, well, tell me more.
Well, so if you think about it, glass houses in general are not great for a hurricane zone. No. And the ones that we have are from the 70s. They are past their useful life.
Okay.
But, we need to be able to safeguard the hothouse environment in the resilient zone. We need to figure it out. So our team is figuring out how to build these structures, what material to use, what kind of composite will be right in order to have the glass house, hothouse effect on the living plants, but at the same time be resilient in a hurricane zone, and at the same time be net positive and generate our own energy via solar and geothermal. And so I know we'll figure this out. It is a lot, and I know we'll figure it out. And once we do, I think it'll be a model for botanical gardens internationally, because we know that these major storm events aren't just in Florida. They're all over the world. And so everyone is kind of in this field struggling with, in some cases, historic old Victorian glass houses.
Sure.
And so the idea of modernizing the operation and providing resiliency for the future is important overall to the study of plants.
I mean, they are absolutely beautiful and endless charm, and
Yes.
they are virtually just a tent. I owned a
Yeah.
I owned a Craftsman bungalow and a wood frame bungalow with the crawl space underneath, and it was a tent.
Yep, exactly. So it's time to shore that up for the future.
Now, in terms of funding for that,
Yes.
what are the efforts there?
Well, so, I'm happy to say that for Selby Gardens Master Site Plan, for the first phase, we raised more than $57 million, and almost all of it is from the private sector.
Wow.
So,
Congratulations.
thank you. So the only government funding we received were 2 state appropriations totaling $1.1 million through the Department of Economic Opportunity, and that was about the job creation. All of the rest of the funding is private. And so it really is a gift to our region. And so we're now ramping up for the second phase of the project. And, we again expect that the private sector will step up to fund this effort, which is so important for our region. And, again, not a burden to the taxpayers.
Sure. No. So is there a campaign kickoff that's forthcoming?
Yes, we do expect to kick off our second phase soon, publicly. So stay tuned for more information about that.
Okay. So beyond, I guess, phase 2, and maybe I'm getting a little ahead of things, but I mean, what do you see for 20 years from now? What is the Selby Gardens look like?
Yes. So there is a phase 3.
Oh, okay.
But the good news is that, this project was really front loaded to tackle the biggest needs up front rather than back loaded because of resiliency issues. So
that makes sense.
Yes. So phase 3 is about restoring our important historical buildings, like the Selby House, the Payne Mansion, which is our museum and is on the National Register of Historic Places, and also unifying the pathways throughout the gardens, fixing our dockage and seawalls. And
that's a big expense.
Yes. And also, wouldn't it be great to arrive at Selby Gardens by boat? We would love to do that. Yes, it would, wouldn't it?
It is amazing.
Yeah.
And I feel like that conversation regionally is starting to build some momentum. But to be surrounded by water and us not have waterborne transportation
exactly
is befuddling.
Yes. So we started having connectivity between both of our campuses by boat.
Okay.
So there is Selby Gardens connectivity.
That's exciting.
So I feel like it could be translated, more regionally, and get people off the roads and get them onto boats. Wouldn't that be nice?
Well, maybe you can serve as an example of your leadership there too. So thank you.
Great.
What inspires you most about your work at the Marie Selby Botanical Gardens?
I love getting up and going to work every day. So I feel lucky.
Definitely beautiful.
I feel lucky that it's a privilege to be in the position I'm in. And, I feel lucky to get up every day, go to the world's first net positive energy botanical garden complex, stare at the best collection of orchids and bromeliads anywhere, and, immerse myself in the natural world, even when I'm at my desk, because easily, just like all of you, I bet, I could stay at my desk and not get out there.
Sure.
But, it's great to grab a few minutes and get out and be in nature and be amongst our collections, even though I'm in downtown Sarasota. So I think I don't need motivation to get out of bed. I get up and I run to work. It's really fun. Yeah.
I could see that. So how often do you actually just take the laptop outside and just sit outside for half the day?
I don't do it as much as I should and could, but knowing that I can is a lot. I
understand that.
So it's knowing that, and it's probably that's part of probably a philosophy I brought from New York, where when you live in New York City, you just want to know that you can do anything at any time, even if you don't do it. And so sitting at my desk, I know I can get out there even if I have work to do. And I think it just provides peace of mind all the time.
I could see that.
But
it's such a beautiful place.
It's great to be able to grab team members and go have a coffee and have business outside.
Yes, yes.
I mean, why not? So we try to do that as much as we can.
I can imagine.
Yeah.
So as someone who has led an organization through some pretty significant and really just generational changes almost, if you will, what advice would you give to someone that's aspiring in the nonprofit space or the cultural space? So
I would say stick to your vision, and be prepared to navigate the challenges that come with it. But don't take no for an answer. Turn that no into a yes. We came up against some opposition to our new project, as far as the land use and zoning and all of that. And our team really persisted in the face of adversity.
And this is at the downtown campus?
Yes.
Interesting. Okay.
So we persisted in the face of adversity that we were met with, and boy, was it worth it, way to persevere. So what was the objection? I think people are always afraid of change.
Okay.
And so we were proposing change. We were preserving the history, of course, but building new structures that were necessary to our operation. And I think that can scare people, And so I think I would tell everyone that, if you have a vision, it's important to stick to it and to persevere in the face of challenges that arise. Well, because it's worth it.
You did it. So congratulations. Anything else you want people to know about?
Just that I think all of us at Selby Gardens, we like nothing more than having first-time visitors. So if you haven't been to our gardens before, I encourage you to come over and see what we have, because it's really such a wonderful getaway. And I think people forget how close it is to the downtown of Tampa. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's just a little getaway. You can come and really immerse yourself and feel like you got away just for a bit.
I was blown away when I went. And so I can't wait to come back and go to the restaurant and tour what's new out there. So
fantastic.
Jennifer, thanks so much for coming on Money Market.
Thank you so much for having me.
If you have a question or future show idea or would like to be a sponsor, you can send us a message at moneymarket@bankoftampa.com or find us on LinkedIn, X, Facebook, and on Instagram at Bank of Tampa, and of course online at bankoftampa.com. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for subscribing, and we'll see you around in the Money Market.